right, so joining me now is one of the best painters I know, Dom. So Dom, not to be confused with the other Dom, because we have a couple of Doms. We're having a Dom off. We're trying to figure out who's the superior Dom. One plays World Eaters, and another one plays Death Guard. So, the Death Guard, how did you get into this project? Because when we first met, you were running Sons of Horus.
Yeah, that's right. So my first army was Sons of Horus, and like the other Dom, my second army was the World Eaters, and then I moved on to Death Guard. So I'll, still very, very much immersed in the Book 1 classic Isstvan 3 Legions.
So you've gone for very much that Book 1 aesthetic, like the colour palette, the actual choice of where you've put the colours on the miniatures. You've not gone for like sort of a later on rustier, grimier look. You've kept a pretty clean cut. So this is almost what you could call an Isstvan 3 force.
Yeah, you could say it's built around the early heresy, maybe late Great Crusade. I guess a couple of things that really inspired how I wanted to go about the army. I think first of all, I certainly used the colour plates in Book 1 as a bit of a guide. One of the things I wanted to bring out in this particular army was a very cold, deathly look, being the Death Guard. So as opposed to more of a cream-coloured, I've gone for a much colder white. And with some blue undertones and sort of things like that to bring across like a real sort of spectral, cold, deathly look in the way that the Legion is a very cold, calculating, very straight to the point type of Legion.
Some real death-bringing type stuff.
Yeah, that's right. Always been the background of the Death Guard, having that very cold, spectral death. They're not a lively bunch, and that's kind of how I've gone about it. I think it's also very easy to get. We'll back up first. They're a great army to really practice weathering because they're also the sort of they're a no nonsense, sort of bunch of fellows that don't mind, getting in amongst some of the toughest battlefields. So it's a great opportunity to really, really practice a lot of your weathering. But it's quite easy to go overboard. So I've definitely tried to, scale it in a certain way, which still allows me to kind of bring out, I guess, those palettes and those colours without going too crazy with the rust and the decay.
Yeah, it's almost it's got that corpse look.
Corpse, that's good. Yeah, that's another good way to put it. Yeah, 100%.
So those bluish tones in the actual creams, it's absolutely lovely. Even just down to the eye lenses, they're a cold colour as opposed to a vibrant red or something.
Yep.
Now you've gone Death Shroud, and in there you've also got the Contemptor. So these are sort of like the close combat arm of your force, but I'm seeing a lot of tactical marines here and a lot of close combat weapons, bolt guns floating around. So this force, it's very basic. You're not trying to go for like the crazy chem munitions everywhere, that sort of thing. What inspired that?
So the Death Guard were a kind of a notorious legion for lots of heavy infantry, and I'm sure the people out there into the heresy have read the background of Mortari, and his view was to try to equip all these legionaries and all these infantry to the best possible standards. So extra weapons, favoured of weapons such as the melter gun as a very sort of no-nonsense type weapon, lots of solid shots and things like that. So big squads. There's a bit of symmetry in this army. It's either 7s, 14s, or 3s in the number to try to play on the sacred number of the Death Guard being 7 and the Legion being the 14th. I do have means to go with lots of chemical heavy flames. They're a great tool and a great weapon to use in the game and a lot of fun. But this is I think the Death Guard are one of those legions where they kind of are sort of in the middle as far as, not a heavy shooting army or a heavy assault army, but an army that you can really sort of balance across everything, and that perhaps gives them a little bit of versatility to play with.
So, with your quad launchers, obviously these are your sort of artillery, I guess, for this particular force. You've used, I think, the Death Core of Krieg.
Yeah, that's right. So the Krieg slug guns. I think the aesthetic has that. The feel. Death Guard and probably even Iron Warriors as well had that feel of that World War One sort of trench fighting
Like
sort of
attritional
aesthetic.
warfare.
Yeah, that's right. So I think those quad models look they're fitting for the Legion. I think the Legion ones that you can get look like they're automated on tracks. These look like they're just on wheels and something that the Legionnaires themselves would be pushing and hauling around, which I think is just a cool little touch.
It's a bit of a thankless job, isn't it, really?
Right, yeah.
And yeah, the Death Shroud. So the Death Shroud over, say, Grave Wardens as a Terminator of option for the Force. Any particular reason?
The look and the aesthetic of just the scythes on the unit just looks extremely appealing and really bleeds Death Guard, I think, when you see it. And a nice unit of 7, with those sides, all sort of poking out. It looks very good. You can take melter bombs on all of them, so they're excellent at carving up light and heavy infantry. They'll stand up against vehicles and dreadnoughts. So they're a great all-round choice. They're very Death Guard in their aesthetic. I personally just really, really love the models.
I see you have used the sides a bit on like the sergeants and such. Just again trying to keep that Reaper iconography and that theme in the army.
I think it's always good. Try to use the Legion-specific war gear and weaponry wherever you can, just to really bring out the Legion's aesthetic.
Another thing I noticed is you've only got like the one heavy unit at the back, the missile launchers. So I know a lot of Death Guard players default to like the Reaping.
Yep.
You obviously are not using that Rite of War with this, but I do assume you have the capacity.
I absolutely have used that Rite of War with this. I like both their Rite of Wars. I've used the Reaping in this one. It's a very good Rite of War. It plays very Death Guard. It makes your models extremely slow but extra resilient. And like you're pointing out, you can use those heavy support guys to capture objectives and use them as troops. So it's very beneficial to that heavy infantry vibe. The slow crawling, extra resilient Legion that is absolutely no nonsense. Has some buffs for their shooting as far as the options of your heavy support, but also some buffs in close combat with the ability to take rag grenades on your characters.
I noticed this Dreadnought I just picked up as well. Iron Hands.
So I love Dreadnoughts. Contemptor Dreadnoughts are some of the best models. I was drawn to the Iron Hands Dreadnought for a Contemptor, but also something that can actually fit a Cautious class Contemptor aesthetic. The Iron Hands Dreadnought has the layered armored plates, which you kind of see in some Death Guard. Some of the older art on the older Death Shroud, and there's a bit of repetition in the layered plates. It's got a lot of exposed cabling and things like that, which make it potentially suitable for a quarters class.
Like that whole jury rigging thing. They're just throwing this together with junk they had from some broken dreadnoughts in the back.
Right. The extra bonded studs just does some very very quick, hasty extra armor thrown on the front. For armies that you want to have multiple dreadnoughts in your collection, I think it's great to really explore the entire range of Contemptor dreadnoughts and see what you can do with some conversion work.
And the very last thing I'll point out before I let you go, you've gone very simple with the iconography. Death Guard in general are not known for being very showy. They're not Emperor's children. But I think it's really important to point out to people, placement is key. You don't have to fill the surface of a model. It's all about where you put it, right? And what you've done with picking here is just beautiful. But can you sort of explain why you've chosen what you have and where on the miniatures and what sort of you're representing?
Yeah, sure. So I've tried to I use color plates in book 1 as a good example of the tactical markings and things like that. You'd notice the Legion plates on the front of the Mark III. The Mark III chest plate is great for transfer placement and things like that. It's a good open surface which allows you to use some of those really nice transfers that are available. There's a lot of the cross sides. Again, a really great emblem and a really great icon. The book, I think, explains that as something along the lines of a Primarch's commendation, or something that Mortarion would grant their sons for some awesome deeds on the battlefield. And then I've put in a couple of these smaller icons amongst it, which the book would detail as being a War Master's commendation. So the Eye of Horus, placed on a few guys again to represent some heroic or no doubt very brutal and blunt deeds. So the transfer sheets and the transfers that are available for the Legions are just awesome, and they really just I think take all your models and your hobby to the next level if you can apply them.
No worries. Well, thank you very much for your time, Dom.
Hey, yeah, cheers, Macca. Thanks,
I'll
mate.
give you another point in the Dom off competition, but it's not clear cut yet who the victor's going to be.
That's all right. That's
World
fine.
Eaters or Death Guard. I think you're just going to have to play for the title at this point.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. Cool.
So thank you very much.
Awesome. Thanks, Macca. Cheers, mate.